The cameras flashed, the crowd froze. And just like that, Hollywood had a new obsession.
Oh, absolutely.
The bass line of a massive pop hit thumped through the speakers, and the world danced. But behind the sequence, behind the unstoppable smile, a superstar was fighting for her life in total secrecy. Welcome to Starscope Report.
Yeah, welcome. Join us as we uncover Hollywood drama, music industry shakeups, and viral influencer scandals.
Right from red carpet surprises to social media controversies, we dive deep into the stories behind the famed. And our mission for this deep dive is to explore a staggering revelation that has completely dominated the news cycle right now.
It really has. I mean, it's everywhere.
The headline is just, it's shocking. Kylie Minogue had breast cancer second time in 2021, and literally nobody knew until now.
Nobody. And we are pulling from an incredible set of sources today to unpack this, primarily a feature in The Guardian and the newly released Netflix documentary series, which is simply titled KLA.
Yeah, directed by Michael Hart, right? The same filmmaker behind the Beckham documentary.
Exactly. And the way this revelation rewrites everything we thought we knew about her recent, just monumental comeback is profound.
It really is. To understand the sheer magnitude of this secret, I think we have to look at what was happening in the public eye. So let's rewind to 2023.
Okay, set the scene.
You could not go anywhere without hearing the song Padam Padam. I mean, it was a global smash hit. It won a Grammy for Best Pop Dance Recording, and it launched the critically acclaimed album Tension.
Right, it was universally celebrated as this triumphant resurgence. It was basically the song of the summer.
Completely. It felt effortless, light, and completely euphoric.
But according to the third episode of the documentary, the reality behind the scenes was terrifyingly different. During her routine checkups in early 2021, she received what doctors call a second primary breast cancer diagnosis.
Wait, let me stop you right there to clarify the medical terminology, because I think that's important.
Sure.
When you say second primary, does that mean the original cancer she had back in 2005 came back? Or is this like an entirely new battle?
That is a crucial distinction. A second primary breast cancer is not a relapse or a metastasis of the first cancer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it is a completely new, independently occurring tumor. So genetically and biologically, it is a brand new disease.
So lightning literally struck twice.
Exactly.
The psychological weight of that must just be unbearable. Because when someone fights an illness like cancer the first time, the narrative is entirely built around conquering it, right? Reaching remission and moving on.
Right. The finish line is survival.
Exactly. To have a brand new tumor appear 16 years later, that just shatters that entire illusion of safety.
It fundamentally alters your relationship with your own body. As she says in the film, she had this horrific realization that, quote, cancer wasn't just a blip in my life.
Oh, that's heavy.
It is. It forces a person to accept that their body might perpetually be a battleground. And her response to the second diagnosis was drastic.
What did she do?
She relocated entirely to Melbourne in late 2021 to be with her family, and she completely locked down her inner circle. The public had absolutely no idea.
I mean, her words in the documentary are objectively devastating. She admits she was, quote, a shell of a person, and that there were points where she didn't even want to leave the house.
Yeah.
Yet simultaneously, she is meticulously constructing this joyful, escapist pop era for the rest of the world.
Which requires a monumental level of compartmentalization. I mean, if you've ever tried to maintain your composure at work while dealing with a family emergency, you understand a fraction of this pressure.
Right.
Now scale that up to sitting in the bright lights of a global press junket, smiling, talking about a dance track, while carrying the heavy physical trauma of cancer treatment.
I keep trying to wrap my head around how someone actually does that.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
essentially trying to host the party of the century, making sure the music is perfect and everyone is dancing while your own house is quietly burning down in the background.
That is such a good way to put it.
But she never let the public see the smoke. Instead, she poured the reality of her situation into the music itself. Specifically into the song Story, which she co-wrote with Biff Stannard.
Yeah, and when you listen to the lyrics of Story now, they take on an entirely different heartbreaking context.
Oh, for sure.
She sings, I had a secret that I kept to myself. I had a one-way ticket that was going nowhere. She explains in the film that she genuinely wanted to tell people what happened so she could just let go of the secret.
But she couldn't.
Right. Every time she sat down for an interview, the instinct to protect herself took over, and she just couldn't bring herself to say the words.
And hey, if you are listening to this and loving these kinds of Hollywood twists, the stories beneath the surface of the headlines, make sure you are subscribed to our feed because we are always peeling back these layers.
Yes, definitely hit subscribe.
So, we know she kept this 2021 battle totally hidden. But to understand the mechanics of why she guarded this secret so fiercely, we really have to look back at the brutal spotlight of her early years.
Right, because her intense need for privacy in 2021 doesn't happen in a vacuum.
Exactly. It was a learned survival tactic.
Ah.
And that's a story of sexism, heartbreak, and a rock star twist nobody saw coming.
It really is. Let's set the stage in the late 1980s. She is a teenage soap actress on the massively popular Australian show Neighbours.
Huge show.
Massive. So she decides to make the leap into music, traveling to London in 1987 to record her first single with the legendary producer Pete Waterman. And this is where the intense underestimation of her really begins.
How so?
Well, Waterman openly admits in the documentary that he didn't even know who she was when she arrived. He had no idea Neighbours was a cultural phenomenon, and it supposedly only took 2 hours to record. I should be so lucky.
Wait, hang on. I want to push back on something here, though.
Yeah.
The documentary frames this as early disrespect. But wasn't the stock Aitken-Waterman production team essentially running a literal pop assembly line?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, they treated almost everyone like interchangeable parts. Was Pete Waterman ignoring her a case of targeted misogyny? Or was the pop industry just a factory back then where no one got individualized attention?
That is a very fair challenge. You are absolutely right about the factory nature of the music industry in that era. The indifference in the recording studio was standard operating procedure.
Right.
But the real targeted cruelty didn't happen in the vocal booth. It happened in the newsrooms. The British tabloid economy in the 1990s operated on a very specific, vicious mechanism when it came to young female stars.
Yeah, they were ruthless.
They were treated as loss leaders for newspapers.
Meaning the tabloids would build up a manufactured pop image of a young woman solely to generate outrage and profit from tearing her down later.
Precisely. It's an economy of mockery. As she became globally famous, the press cruelly dubbed her the singing budgie.
Ugh, that's so demeaning.
And they constantly used the word raunchy to describe her fashion, punishing her for the very image the industry had forced her into in the first place.
Which raises the question, how does a person survive that kind of relentless, systematic public mockery? Because she eventually goes through what are now known as her wilderness years.
Right.
She tries to break free from the pop factory, experimenting with indie music, collaborating with different artists. And the mainstream media essentially abandoned her during this period.
They did, but the documentary highlights one crucial demographic that stayed fiercely loyal.
The gay community.
Yes, the gay community. They stuck by her when the tabloids were writing her off as a joke. That loyalty provided a foundational safety net for her career. But privately, she was also experiencing profound relationships that challenged her to evolve.
Like who?
Most notably, her romance with INXS frontman Michael Hutchence.
Oh, the way she discusses Hutchence is incredibly moving. She calls him hilarious, cultured, and tender, and admits he was likely the love of her life.
It's a beautiful part of the film.
They were together for 2 years, and even though they split up 6 years before his tragic death in 1997, he represented a turning point for her. He embodied this wild, artistic freedom that the pop factory had entirely denied her.
He really cracked open her artistic identity. But the pivotal twist that leads her back to pop dominance involves another rock legend, Nick Cave.
Yes?
They collaborated in the mid-90s on the murder ballad Where the Wild Roses Grow. And Cave saw something in her that the tabloids had entirely missed.
I am fascinated by Nick Cave's description of her. He calls her a joy machine.
It is a brilliant phrase,
Yeah.
because Cave defines joy not as superficial happiness, but as the capacity to rise out of suffering.
Wow.
Yeah, he recognized the sheer grit it took for her to maintain her light amidst the media abuse. And paradoxically, it was Cave, the Prince of Darkness himself, who convinced her to abandon her attempts at indie music.
He literally told her, where are the pop tunes?
Yes. He understood the cultural snobbery of the time, the idea that rock was authentic and pop was disposable, and he told her to just ignore it. He validated her unique gift for pop music.
And that direct push inspired her to return to the dance floor and launch one of the greatest comebacks in history with the song Spinning Around.
Exactly.
So if we connect this all back to her 2021 cancer diagnosis, the architecture of her secrecy makes perfect sense. She learned in the 90s that the media would dissect her and weaponize her vulnerability.
So she built a wall.
Right, she learned to separate her public persona, the joy machine, from her private reality. But what happens when the fight is against your own body and the cost of the battle might be the one thing you wanted most in the world? You won't want to miss this heartbreaking revelation.
Yeah, to understand the emotional cost of her 2021 silence, we really have to look at the stark contrast of her first cancer diagnosis in 2005. The way those two events played out publicly and privately is entirely different.
Let's set the timeline. It was May 2005. She was 36 years old, at the absolute pinnacle of her career.
She was everywhere.
She was in the middle of her massive Showgirl Greatest Hits tour, and she was scheduled to headline the Sunday slot at the Glastonbury Festival. And then everything just stopped. She was diagnosed with early-stage breast cancer.
The fallout was immediate and the lack of privacy was horrifying.
I remember it being everywhere.
The media intrusion was so severe, so relentless, that the Premier of the Australian state of Victoria, Steve Bracks, actually had to intervene.
Wait, a politician stepped in?
Yes. He issued public warnings to the paparazzi, threatening them with harassment laws just to protect the privacy of her medical records. It was a complete media circus.
Which is exactly why she went into total stealth mode in 2021. But even amidst that chaos in 2005, her public battle triggered an incredible public health phenomenon known as the Kylie effect.
Yes, the Kylie effect is a fascinating study in how parasocial relationships impact public health. When she went public with her diagnosis, it caused a massive, unprecedented surge in mammogram bookings across the UK and Australia.
It's essentially like an earthquake early warning system. One high-profile tremor hits a beloved public figure, and it instantly rewires the safety protocols of an entire population.
That's exactly what happened.
Women saw someone young, vibrant, and seemingly invincible get diagnosed, and it triggered an immediate life-saving reflex in millions of people. I mean, she was literally saving lives just by surviving in the public eye.
And that is the ultimate paradox of her 2005 experience. On a macro level, it was this inspiring story of awareness and survival. But on a micro, deeply personal level, it was an absolute tragedy.
Yeah.
The documentary does not shy away from the devastating reality behind closed doors. You have her sister, Kylie Minogue, expressing this profound helplessness. Danny says, if I could chop off one of my arms now and this could all go away, I would.
Oh, that is so heartbreaking. Right. And here is where the story gets deeply complicated and, frankly, just devastating.
Yeah.
The documentary details an impossible medical choice she had to make.
Right.
At 36, she desperately wanted a child. She had been planning to start a family. But when she got the cancer diagnosis, she actually postponed her life-saving chemotherapy so she could try IVF. I need to understand the biological stakes here. Why is trying for a baby mutually exclusive with starting cancer treatment?
It comes down to cellular biology and the mechanics of hormone therapy. Breast cancer treatment, especially early stage, relies on moving incredibly fast to eradicate rapidly dividing cancer cells.
Okay.
You want to start chemotherapy or surgery immediately to stop the spread.
But IVF takes time.
Exactly. In vitro fertilization requires weeks of ovarian stimulation using high doses of hormones to mature multiple eggs for harvesting.
Oh, wow.
And here's the brutal biological clash. Many breast cancers are hormone receptive. They literally use estrogen to grow and multiply.
So the very hormones required to harvest the eggs could actively feed the cancer.
Precisely. It is the medical equivalent of pouring gasoline on a fire while you are desperately trying to put it out. To intentionally delay cancer treatment, knowing the tumor might be growing because the desire to be a mother is so overpowering, it's an agonizing calculation. She says it was terrifying, but she couldn't not try.
It's the ticking clock of cancer multiplication versus the ticking biological clock of motherhood.
Yeah.
And tragically, the IVF didn't work out.
No, it didn't.
In the documentary, she shares a letter she wrote to the baby that might have been. And the poetry in her grief is profound. She wrote, "Distant child, my flower, are you blowing in the breeze? Can you feel me as I breathe life into you, wrapped in a blanket of hope, asleep on a bed of dreams? My step into eternity is not what it might have been. I'm waiting for your whisper."
It's absolutely devastating, and Danny points out the cruel irony of it, noting that Kylie was always a natural with children, always saw herself as a parent, while Danny herself never really felt that maternal pull.
Yeah.
It's a profound grief that Kylie has carried with her for decades, a grief completely invisible to the stadiums of people dancing to her music.
It brings us back to that central question. How does someone carry that much personal grief? The terror of a cancer diagnosis, the loss of a dreamed-of child, the brutal media scrutiny, and still step out on stage to be a joy machine?
It comes back to Nick Cave's definition, doesn't it? Joy is the capacity to rise out of suffering. She didn't ignore the darkness. She actively chose to step into the light anyway.
Right.
There is a pivotal moment she describes during her chemotherapy in Paris in 2005. She was physically depleted, looking out at the Eiffel Tower just as its lights began to sparkle, and she had this clarifying thought. She said, "I'm not finished. This is not where I want to say goodbye."
She willed herself back. She returned to music with the album X in 2007, and eventually, she conquered that canceled Glastonbury set. In 2019, she took the Pyramid stage and played to one of the largest crowds in the festival's history.
And she is continuing to turn that resilience into art today. Alongside the documentary, she just released a new song called Light Up, which was inspired by her mother, Carol Ann.
Ah, that's beautiful.
It explores the concept of a mother's love, which is a beautiful, full-circle moment considering her own journey with motherhood and family. She turned profound personal trauma into public advocacy and ultimately back into music.
If you want to keep unpacking stories like this, where we look at the real human mechanics behind pop culture moments, hit that subscribe button.
Definitely.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Why does a deep dive into a pop star's medical history actually matter to your everyday life?
Because it is a definitive masterclass in resilience and self-preservation. On a very practical level, Kylie's story is a reminder of the vital importance of medical checkups.
Obviously.
She explicitly states in the documentary that early detection of that second primary tumor in 2021 is the only reason she is well today. But beyond the medical reality, it's a profound lesson in establishing boundaries and controlling your own narrative.
Right. When the world tries to write your story, whether it's an industry dubbing you a singing budgie or the tabloids turning your illness into a media circus, you have the power to step back.
You really do.
You can build your armor, and you get to decide what parts of yourself you owe to the world and what parts you keep to survive. In 2005, her battle belonged to the public. In 2021, she chose survival entirely on her own terms.
That is the ultimate power move. She protected her peace so fiercely that she was able to give the world an album like Tension while privately fighting for her life.
I want to leave you with this final thought. Think about the performers we see on stage, bathed in lights, giving us the time of our lives. We consume their joy so easily we expect it. But what invisible battles are they fighting behind the sequence? Next time you hear a carefree pop song, consider the heavy armor it took to create it. Consider the house that might be burning just out of frame and the incredible strength it takes to keep dancing anyway.
You've been listening to Starscope Report, where we uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining.